Thanks all for coming. My name is Mika, Rahko. I'm a co-founder at Futureplay. And today I'm going to talk about how we brought a massive online competitive casual arena game to life, or MOCCA, as we call them, because that's a mouthful. First, a little bit about Futureplay Games before we move to MOCCAs. Futureplay Games was founded 2015 with 5 guys. We've raised 2.6 million investment. Currently, we're 25 people. We have a little bit over 10 million in revenues total. 8 million of those are from ads, and 2.4 million from in-app purchases. We've launched 7 games so far in 3 years. And we have 3 production babies and 1 incoming. So far, we've had 30 million downloads and 666 million ad impressions. And all of these ad impressions are rewarded video. None of these are forced ads. And out of those 7 games, 2 are MOCCAs, and both of them are in soft launch currently. We have 5 idle games out. One of them is a port on a Messenger platform, and the other ones are, the 4 ones are on the Android and iOS. So when we started in 2015, we started the game on the idea of view to play. It's a term that we coined ourselves. For us, it means that we want to mainly monetize through ads. And we wanted to integrate the ads in a friendly, positive way. There are a lot of games that integrate ads in, like that they force them to the players, or they give them in a kind of negative spot where player has just failed, or they run out of lives, and you already feel bad, and then you're like, okay, I guess I need to watch an ad. And we didn't want to do that. We wanted to always integrate it in the positive ways. They're additive to the game experience. The placements themselves feel natural. They're in the context of the gameplay. As an example, for Idle Farming Empire, you can control the weather at your farm by watching ads. There's a rain cloud and a sun in the game world, and by clicking the rain cloud and watching an ad, you get rain on your farm for 4 hours, and of course the crops will produce more then. And we have similar placements on all of the 4 other idle games as well. There are some KPIs from iOS, US, and average from all of the games. So we're kind of average player watches like 6 ads a day per daily active user. So we're showing a lot of ads, as you saw from the previous slide as well. And we have about 80% daily ad conversion. So each daily active user has like 80% likelihood of watching an ad. And we are getting about 25 to 30 eCPM dollars, and we have about 15-cent ARPDAU and $2 lifetime value in the US. So this was a great, just actually going to go through this first. So this is kind of our idle game portfolio revenues month by month. The big spike on the left there is the launch of Idle City Empire. We got feature for that one, big time. And then, as you can see, like we've been now growing the revenues slowly but steadily. We're about to hit something like 850,000 for this month as well. So we had a solid base revenues now from the idle portfolio. It was a great time for us to take a little bit more risk and step up in revenues. And we wanted to go after a little bit more high retention and monetizing genres. And at the end of last year, we started to think about that, like, okay, what could be next thing for us be? Because we started from the left here, so from view to play. We went after the massive themes, farming, city building, Minecraft themed, and so on. And we kind of added the idle game simplicity over on top of that, and the view to play angle, and then did it with our Futureplay quality. And then we kind of started to think about that. What other big genres could there be? And we all liked MOBA games a lot, and IO games, and so on. And we kind of coined this term, massive online casual competitive arena game, to kind of combine all of these all of these things, similarly as we did with Futureplay for idle games. And for us, MOCCA means that we kind of take the excitement from MOBAs. Every game is a bit different. There's something random always happening. You will kind of remember the story of each game, and you can tell that to someone. Take the accessibility of IO games like Agario. You can just jump in a browser and start playing. It's super simple. And also the kind of ease of gameplay from MOBAs to really increase the audience potential, and start prototyping proven mechanics to hit the sweet spot. And of course, keep the Futureplay quality with these titles as well. So, at the end of last year, we started from that, and then we had two separate teams started the prototype. And the other game that is also now in soft launch is Battle Bombers Arena. That's kind of a Bomberman game. So that team wanted to go more after kind of arcade type of games and do a MOCCA of that. And then the other team, we were a big fans of the Battle Royale genre at the end of last year, like everyone is now. So we were playing Fortnite and PUBG and so on. And we started to think that, how can we do this properly for mobile? So I'm going to now first go through a little bit about like what Battlelands Royale is as a game. And then I'm going to go through the development process of the game. So we like to say that it's Battle Royale on mobile and done right. And that means that the session length for one match is about 2 to 3 minutes. You don't have to play the match for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. It doesn't really work for mobile that well. It means that the camera is not first person or even not third person. We wanted to go with top-down camera because that's so much easier to kind of control on a mobile device. So other than that, it's pretty much a basic Battle Royale game. You drop down into the action, you loot your perfect loadout, and you need to survive the fight. You need to be the last one to be alive. And in Battlelands Royale, there are 32 players on the island. You can also spectate the matches after you die. And we paid a lot of attention to make sure that the game actually runs on mobile networks that are sometimes not so great. And as I mentioned, like having intuitive controls. And the game being like a competitive game, online shooter game, we didn't want to go to like monetize through power progression, because then the players will always say that it's pay to win, which is true. So we didn't want any of that. We wanted to go after kind of skins monetization. We wanted to have characters that the players can earn by playing, and maybe if they're cool enough and the players like it so much, they might actually spend some money on those as well. So you can earn some of them, you can buy some of them, and there's XP on the games that you can gain ranks with. So then about the development timeline. As I mentioned, we were talking about this at the end of last year, and then the first prototype was made by one coder during one weekend in October 2017. Henkka is somewhere here. Maybe he's hiding over there. Yes, there he is. Just before the SLAS Helsinki conference. And then the pre-production started in December after the SLAS conference. Visual development, choosing which tech partners to go with, outlining the design of the game. Which, by the way, was really easy at that point because we had such a great prototype. But more about that in a bit. And then Team of 5 kicked off the production at the beginning of this year. And we soft launched in Finland, Poland, and Ukraine in March 2018 after 3 months of production. Then we scaled the team to 8 people. And we've been doing bi-weekly soft launch updates, adding more into the core gameplay. We just added reviving now after duos and more guns and so on. And also the monetization features about the skins and animations and parachutes and so on. And we're actually going to globally launch the game on the 28th of June. This hasn't ever been mentioned before anywhere, so you guys are the first to know that the game is actually coming out next week. So this is the first prototype that Henkka did in one weekend. It's showing 2 different clients. I think the other one on the right is on Unity Editor, and then the other one is on a window. And as you can see, they're both in the same game. He's first controlling the other, and then he's shooting the other player using the other client there. it looks kind of simple, a bit sluggish maybe, a little bit ugly, and so on. But actually, a lot of the things that we've had in this prototype, a lot of people at the office already instantly fell in love with. It was fun to play. And a lot of the things that are in this prototype are still the same in the final product, like the scale, the controls, the scale between the characters and the buildings, and so on. So there was a lot of things already that felt right. And then we visited the Unity asset store, and we got some ready-made assets to make a little bit more fleshed-out prototype for Slush. And this is how the game looked after that. There are a couple of more features here as well. We actually had the ring or the storm that was coming already in this build as well. And we were showing this game at Slush to a lot of friends, people from different gaming companies, and like playing it together. And people were really excited. There were funny situations where people started to sumo wrestle when the ring was getting so small and people ran out of bullets, and they were trying to sumo wrestle the other people out of the ring because we didn't have melee attack yet, and so on. And there was so much laughter and positive feedback. And many people said that, guys, you need to now put a big team on this and get it out fast. So we listened, and we started pre-production after the Slush. And from the technical perspective, our goals were that we need to be able to prototype it fastly and especially have fast time to market. I'll come back to that also a bit later as to why we wanted to be fast there. We looked at a few similar kind of third-party networking engines. And we actually tried building one ourselves as well. And then we found out that, OK, it's not that easy. Because we wanted to be able to get fast to the market, we chose a partner that is client authoritative. It's just so much faster to do. There's no need to deploy anything on the server side. And we went with Photon in the end. They use this kind of a relay server architecture where the clients of any of the games that uses Photon, they just open rooms on their servers, and the servers don't even know which game the rooms are for. And then there are kind of mechanism for the games to send one-to-all or one-to-one messages between the clients inside that room. But of course, as you can imagine, trust in the clients comes with cons. But it's been interesting to follow what's been happening in terms of multiplayer games in general when it comes to this kind of architecture. Like first, it was only client authoritative. Then the servers were kind of the big thing and still are. But it looks like there's now a next trend coming up where it's kind of client authoritative, but it's deterministic. So you can do kind of predictive rollback system. And we're probably going to move with this game to that direction later on as well. Then we needed a lot of other stuff to facilitate kind of friends list for multiplayer stuff, leaderboards, and also help our community managers to kind of do player support and so on. So we needed some kind of online service that supports hosting save games, has kind of keeps track of the player's inventory, which characters they own, and so on, does account linking, receipt validation with deduplication, so your players are not able to use the same receipt twice, and so on. And there are plenty of these kind of ready-made services out there. But it's important to keep in mind when choosing yours that they kind of force you to design your architecture of your game, the design of it, and very often also some UI flows around those services. So whenever you're kind of choosing which one to go with, and I recommend trying out a few, you need to kind of figure out how do I use this service for the thing that I need for my game, and is there something that I actually need to change in the game to kind of fit that? Of course, you can try and build something like this yourself as well, but we wanted to get out there fast, and it's a big undertaking to build something like this. And it's also important to kind of be wary of the costs. These kind of services can get expensive, especially if you're targeting like casual audiences where you're expecting to get a lot of players, but maybe the average revenue per daily active isn't that high. So just keep that in mind when choosing your partner. Then about the visual development, our goals for this were that we wanted to have flat, simple, fun-looking game, fixed shapes with fun-looking scale. And this was a 2 weeks process from one artist, Carlos is over there. And there was no kind of strict benchmark or limitations for this process. So it was important for us to kind of try and explore multiple, massively different styles and variations. But it meant that we couldn't go down them far. We needed to kind of recognize fast that, OK, this is not the right path to take. Because we didn't have time to go down and iterate on them. We just needed to pick that one that the team felt that this is the right path to take, and then keep on going further with that one. We also created a template 3D scene. It just helped us quickly iterate on like a lot of the aspects of the visual development, the scale, the shape, the color, the lighting, and so on. And as an example, like we wanted the characters to have quite big heads so that they have more character, also one in the game world. But then when it's a top-down game, you need to make sure that the head doesn't block the lower body completely when it's animated. Otherwise, it's looking like floating heads in the game world. So a lot of this kind of stuff we were already testing out and figuring out with the template 3D scene in the beginning. And as I mentioned before, we wanted to monetize through the skins. So we wanted also to be able to do cool-looking, very different-looking characters so that drives the monetization side of the game. I have a few pictures here from the early visual development, just testing out scale, different layouts for areas on the map. Here's a lot of different looking characters that we tried out. Here's some more. I actually like the one with the horse head on the bottom left. Can we get that into the game later? And in the end, this is how the game looked or looks like. Here's 4 screenshots of the game. Not too much detail on the buildings itself. The scale it's fun, it's nice, and it's easy to see where the action is and where the characters are. So your eyes are not kind of too much drawn into the details on the environment itself. So we were at the end of the pre-production, and then this is kind of beginning of January this year. We wanted to make a launch plan for the game. We had an idea already based on the prototype of like, OK, what the game should be when it's complete. And we wanted to get to the market fast. So we wanted to do a technical soft launch in April, where all of the core gameplay features would have been implemented, and we would be able to test the multiplayer architecture and functionality. And also start doing a little bit of user acquisition testing in terms of like optimizing creatives, maybe testing even different names, icons, screenshots, art styles, and so on, so that we would have an idea of the cost per install we would be needing to pay for users for this type of game. And then we already then decided at the beginning of the year as well that we want to launch the game in June. It's going to be 6-month production. It's going to be out in June. And we would, after the soft launch, just focus on expanding the metagame side and monetization, and add also duos and like playing against other duos. So, what's the rush launching this fast? Why did we want to have 6 months production? I'm a big believer in trying to get the games out as fast as possible. For various reasons, and one of the biggest one is I think it's just, you just never know if the game will work out until you launch it. So I recommend soft launching as early as possible with minimum awesome product. No one wants to play a minimum viable game. Like it's not fun to play something that is viable. It needs to be awesome, but you can launch it still with quite small feature set. When you really start to think about that, what does the game need for us to be able to test it out there with real users, and then finding out if the users are having fun with the game or not. It really forces you to focus on the essentials of the features and preventing like feature creep. And it's so much easier then to validate the direction of your development as well. You might not have the best idea of like what the game actually needs for it to be successful. You might get that from the data or the feedback from the players. You might see that there's community organically starting to form already in the very early soft launch. And you can get great ideas and comments and direction from there. It just gives you a much earlier confirmation on whether or not to continue with the game at all into the full launch. But it's often just so easy to hide in development. It's easy to say that, nah, it's not done yet. It only need this, and this feature, and then it will be complete, and then we're able to test it out. But I recommend trying to get rid of that fear, because it's scary, but it just gives you so many pros with so few cons if you actually try and launch fast. And actually, with this game also, I want to mention that for us it was also important because of the genre of the game. There's like a big trend now with the Battle Royale games out there, and we wanted to be able to write that as well. When we started to work in this game, PUBGs and Fortnites were not on mobile yet, but now they are, and we want to also be able to ride that wave. Then about the production. So the hard part is now over. We have a great prototype. We outline design based on that. We talk with the team about when do we want to soft launch and why, what do we want to test there, what the global launch scope is going to be, and when do we want to launch. So that was the hard part. The easy part was then the production side, because we had a great plan already. So this is how our team worked. We were making the game in 1-week sprints. We had no producers, no product leads at all. Every Monday morning, we have a quick retro of the last week, what we did, and then sprint planning for the next week. Everyone in the team managed their own tasks on the G sheet that you can see the picture of on the right here. That's the 4 first week of the project right there. So the columns are weeks and the rows are tasks. Constant ad hoc communication within the team. And all of the decisions were made with the whole team. When relevant, of course. Like, I'm a programmer myself. I didn't have to comment on everything on the art side. Of course, I trust the guys to do that. And then builds every Friday. And in general, we valued communication and ownership in the project over process and tools. And I'm not saying that this is the perfect production process to make a game. Every game that I worked on, every team that I work with are different. So maybe it's something to take out of this is just to think about your team. Think about what kind of people they are, what kind of expertise they have, what kind of background do they have, what kind of personalities do they have, and figure out the production process that fits best your team. I don't think there is one production process that everyone should use. Teams are so different. And this is kind of shows also our values inside the company a little bit. We worked on this game as well because we try to keep the company as flat as possible. Actually, we have no titles at all. I don't know where Unity pulled my head of development that I have in the app here. I'm not head of development. I'm a coder, and I also happen to be a co-founder. So we like to keep it flat. We only have one rule in the whole company: no bullshit. So, thank you. So then we worked on the game for 3 months, and this was our soft launch trailer. Let's see if we can get some audio here as well. Cool, huh? Then some learnings about the project. It was also my first time making a online multiplayer game. I've never done that before. So I learned that it's hard. It's quite hard. You need to reserve enough time for your technical soft launch. Of course, it depends on a lot of like the type of game you're making, the scope of that. But with this game, for example, we needed to have 2 months to iron out all of the issues. We had bugs in place where some rooms would get stuck, and we needed to actually do another build to resolve that issue, and so on. It's so different from making single-player experiences to online multiplayer games. And I also learned that how important it really is having a great prototype that people enjoy playing. It's so much easier to people to get an idea and vision, like common vision of what the game should be in the end. It just makes everything so much easier when you're in the production phase. You don't need to have the endless design discussions and so on, because it's so clear already based on the prototype. It's important to follow trends, like the Battle Royale is a big, big trend right now. But keep in mind the platform that you are targeting, which is what we did. We did this as well. It's not a good idea, in my opinion, to bring like a first-person Battle Royale game onto the mobile context with 30 minutes play sessions. It basically means that people need to play the game while being charged on a charger, and, charging the game while playing it, and so on. Fail fast. Try to take the kind of riskiest assumptions first, and figure out if it will work or not. If it does, great. If it doesn't, at least you tried it early. It's fun to make a game where you're part of the target audience, but it's important to keep the rest of the target audience in mind. I find that this is actually harder when you're making a game that I'm in the target audience. But you just need to be able to do that. You need to keep in mind that, okay, I might not be right. I need to keep the whole target audience in mind. And lastly, it's hard to make online games, but it's not as hard as you might think. So I really recommend trying it out. If you have a great idea, there are a lot of ready-made frameworks out there, and you can get something done during a weekend already. So I just recommend trying it out. It's a great way to learn as well, and these type of games are, of course, fun to make. So with that said, I want to thank you. There are a couple of links here. There are our futureplay.games.com website. Go check it out. There's also a careers page. We do have some positions open. And there are also my email and LinkedIn profile if you want to contact me. I do believe we have some time for questions, but also the team will actually be here next to the stage after the talk. So if you have any specific questions about our animations, art, tech, whatever, just come in and ask these guys the questions. But we do have a couple of minutes, I believe, now as well. Thank you.
Yeah. Question about testing, because multiplayer tests really different than single players. So did you write bots early on? And what about automatic tests? What's your framework?
Yes, we built bots very early on. We're actually thinking initially that hopefully we don't need the bots. But I'm just so glad that we took time to develop those, because they really helped us iron out a lot of the issues in the multiplayer game as early as possible. And it also meant that when we're in soft launch currently, and we've been opening new regions, it means that the game isn't empty for the new players, because we can fill them with bots. And the bots are actually, they're quite good, so a new player probably doesn't even necessarily realize that they're playing against bots.
Thanks.
Hey, you said you use client authoritative systems in your game, so how you deal with hackers in your game?
That's a great question. I encourage you to actually talk to one of our developers here soon. The short answer is that we're looking into it.
All right.
In what way did you gather user feedback during the soft launch phase? Like, I suppose analytics, but maybe also other things?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we made a build every Friday, and we kind of had an internal play session every Friday, but it was kind of organic. We started to play at the same time, and suddenly we saw a lot of people from other teams also joining and playing the game. So that's one way of, like, great way of getting feedback and to feel, are we going in the right direction? But we also kind of tried to share the game to our friends in other gaming companies, investors, through Test Flight, Google Alpha channel, and so on, as early as possible. That's a great way of getting it. But also, we were so surprised to see how fast the community side actually grown. There were a lot of players that kind of put Facebook pages together for the players and discussed about the game and gave us feedback. So that's been a great way of getting the feedback as well, on Discord too.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for the presentation. Actually, I'm curious about the creatives, because you mentioned that you did some tests for your UA. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how you approach testing creatives process and how you approach creating the creatives?
So the easiest place to start is using Google's kind of tools that they have on the web on the console. You can test the different icons, and you actually can directly see which one of the icons are getting more clicks or install rate. But we also are running tests on Facebook, for example. We create a couple of very different looking creatives, and we try to see which one resonates better, where we get lower CPI, and then try to iterate from there. But there's no ready-made kind of formula for that. You just need to think about what might work, and oftentimes you kind of get surprised that it was like this. So you just need to keep on doing it as well. I don't think you can ever be ready with it. So even though you find something that works very well, keep on doing it and trying to improve, because it's a big part of having a successful free-to-play game nowadays, that your install rates are high and people are actually clicking on the creatives.
Yeah, right. And actually, another one about the creative team. Do you have like a big team of creative inside, or you maybe outsource some stuff?
We have one artist solely focusing on making creatives. We do outsource a lot of the video production, and we have some playables in place as well that we do with partners. But one artist inside internally, and then one marketing guy next to him.
So the biggest part is outsourcing when it comes mostly to the heavy video production, as you said, right?
Sorry?
So the biggest part is outsourcing when it comes to the heavy video production.
Yeah, so the video side and the playables, those we outsource.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Hi. You are using Photon for the rooms, but for the prototype, what were you using there? What did you manage? We
actually used Photon already for the prototype, but we then tried out a few other ones, but in the end we chose to go with Photon.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions? Please come to and ask from the team there. They're all ready and willing. Thanks, guys. Thank you.